Alright everybody, welcome back to the Anonymous Miner channel, and today we are going to go over this ASrock RX5700. It's been running pretty hot on the memory back here, and I noticed that it has a metal backplate right here. And between the metal backplate and the memory on the back side of the PCB, the circuit board, there is no thermal pads. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take this card apart, and we are going to replace the thermal paste, replace the thermal pads, and add some extra thermal pads. So without any further ado, let's get started on this. So the first thing we're going to need to do is start removing the screws from the GPU. And I've got my tiny little screwdriver here. We're going to remove them all one by one. You gotta be very careful here not to strip any of these out. I did puncture right through that tamper-proof paper, so just be aware of that. Take that guy off, and now we should be able to separate the circuit board from the cooler. There we go. I want to be careful here with the fan, and I'm going to slowly wiggle out that connector. There we go. That's separated. That's the cooler from the actual PCB here. And you can tell here, I don't know if it's going to focus or not, but you can see this pattern in the thermal paste here. And it shows that the contact was not complete with this thermal paste, so it definitely needed to be replaced. So let me set this aside right over here. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start removing the screws to actually get this metal backplate off, because they come through this side and they come into this side. So we're going to pull these screws out now. I believe there's 4 in total. Is that one? And there's this one. And we got the last one out. So now this backing plate, again, it has these rubber spacers here. Put the PCB down. It has these rubber spacers here, but it does not have any thermal pads between this metal backplate and the memory was overheating. So that's one of the things I want to do, is I want to put some thermal paste in between these memory chips right here on the back side and this metal plate. So we'll set that aside for now. And now we're going to start removing these actual heat sinks. This is the VRMs, I believe, don't quote me on that. Now I do know this is the memory underneath here though, so this is one of the main parts, and you can see here, if it focuses out, these memory pads have actually been getting so hot that the oil came out and it's collected a lot of dust right next to the little memory chips right there. So now let's remove this. And this has 4 screws as well. And now I'm going to use this screwdriver at the edge over here where there's nothing else on the circuit board. I'm going to carefully lift up on this cooler for the memory. Just like that. Look at this edge now. And that came off. You can see there's all the thermal pads there. You can see when I took this off that this thermal pad cracked in half. It is still pretty spongy, but it's losing a lot of its thermal conductivity, which is what I have an issue with. So we'll put that over there. Now we just need to pull off the VRM cooler. Again, I think it's the VRM. I'm not sure about that. And we'll pop this guy off in the same manner, very carefully, and try not to score or damage the board in any way. And this is the same thing. It kind of separated when it came apart. It looks all sweaty. I don't think this camera's going to pick it up. It's all glistening and sweaty where it's been getting too hot. So this is the basic board, and we're going to clean this off real quick, and then we'll start applying some new thermal paste. So I've just got a clean little napkin here. I'm going to start wiping a lot of this rag off, this dirt and stuff. Okay, We're going to clean this. This is the actual GPU die. This is the part that is actually measured when you're seeing your temperature on like HiveOS and stuff. A lot of times it's this. It's not the actual memory. So as soon as I finish cleaning this off, we'll put it down and we'll get some thermal paste ready for this card, because that's the real way to do it, to cool it down. But you know, okay. So there we go. It's all clean. Wait, what's going on here? What is it?
What are you talking about? Thermal pad, thermal paste? Just slap an anonymous iron sticker down on there. This will be the coolest GPU in the farm. Check that out.
Alright guys, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what just happened, but I guess we'll try this. See what happens here. It could be good. One of these anonymous miner stickers right here, you know? I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. If you need your own, you can get them on dozlord.com. I know that much. But anyways, we'll set this one aside. We'll try that later. I do have this other one here. Alright? So we'll continue with the thermal paste on this other card over here, and we'll finish it up now. So, now, we have a clean GPU here. I've cleaned it all up. I have everything removed. All the memory is cleaned, and everything over here is cleaned. Alright, so when we're putting this thing back together, the first thing we're going to need to do is figure out the different thermal pad thicknesses here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully peel one of these thermal pads off. You can see I'm just kind of barely lifting the edge of it and trying to peel it carefully. There are different ways to figure out the thicknesses of this pad. If you have what's called a veneer caliper, a little measuring tool, that's another way of doing it. I will leave the description of that tool down below. But today, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab all these different thermal pads that I have, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to compare them. So this is the exact thickness of it. I believe this is a 1mm pad, or maybe a 1.5mm pad. At any rate, this is how I did it. I ordered all these different pads, right, and I'm matching it up here. So I've got the exact size right there. Perfect. So now I'm going to put this on top of here, and I'm going to get my razor blade, if I can ever get this back on top in the right spot, and we're going to cut it out. Alright. Okay. And we're going to cut it this way. And now I have a little tiny square of thermal pad. So now on the back side there's a sticker. I'll peel that off carefully. And I'm going to place this down on top of the memory chip. And the reason I'm putting it on top of the memory chip is so that I know that it's centered on that memory chip. And then I'm going to peel the back plastic off of this. There we go. So now that thermal pad is placed, and this is all going over here. So let me save this, because they're all the same size, right? And I need 8 of them. So I'm going to place this down on here, and we'll cut this one out. And I'm just going to cut a bunch out real quick. If I turn it this way, I think I can. Nope, I can't quite get to out of that, so we'll just turn it back this way. Okay, so that's 3. That's 4. Right. Five. 6. And when you're doing this, it's better to have it a little bit bigger than smaller, as long as it'll fit. You don't want to have any interference, but you also don't want to have enough material, because this is what's conducting your heat. So I am going just slightly bigger. And I can tell all around my memory over here, I have plenty of space. Okay, so that's 8 of these cut out. And just need to peel these sticker off the back of this one. Okay. Drop the third one down. Okay. These little heat transfer pads. And onto here. So the other thing I want to go over is they have all these different pads and different ratings of how well they transfer heat. You really don't need to go crazy and get a crazy high rated pad. It's more about having fresh pads that work well. It looks like I'm short one pad, huh? Didn't cut enough out. Alright. Pop that guy down there, alright. Okay. So now that all that's ready, I can now peel all these pads off of here. Right, and these are all trash. So sometimes you might have to scrape these off if they get really hard. But because these cards are known to not cool very well to begin with, see that one just kind of popped off. These are popping off. So these are the ones that were probably getting my temperature issues. Grab another napkin from over here off screen. And we're going to wipe this down. Okay, and we're going to try and get it as clean as possible. Okay. Alright, so now that's nice and clean, and you can see the same shape over here. We're just going to set that down very carefully in the right spot. And then hold this with my fingers and then flip it. Put these back in. Make sure you don't strip these screws out. If you aren't used to this type of thing, what you can do is you can put your screwdriver on here, and you can back it up until you feel it click. Or you hear it click. You hear that click? Now then go forward. And that's going to get it right to the beginning of that threaded hole. So let me do that one more time. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear this. That click. And then I go back in. Alright, and then we'll make sure they're nice and tight and even. This thermal transfer is all about pressure as well, even pressure. So So that's all that part, and now we need to repad this part right here along this strip. And for that, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it, and it's the same thickness. So right about there. Let's put this next to that. Right about there. Perfect. The whole strip. Next time I'm actually going to put it, we'll put it over here. Put it on the heat sink because it's recessed down in there. That's kind of down in there, and I have a hard time pulling the second piece of plastic off. Alright. And now this, the screw holes line up if you put it down right. So there we go. And the screw hole and the screw hole. And the same thing when I hold it with my index finger while I flip it. And carefully move it. And get the screws started. Okay, so now that's complete. Put that sticker over there. Now all we have left is the actual GPU. So I'm going to get my napkin again, and I'm going to make sure I get that nice and clean, get all the fingerprints and stuff off of it. And I'm going to pull it off screen real quick and just blow it. And I actually got a little bit of spit on it there, that's gross. Okay, it's nice and dry. There's no lint, there's no wetness, there's nothing there. So now we're going to take our Cryonaut, our Thermal Grizzly thermal paste.
Show that to the camera.
So our Cryonaut thermal grizzly paste, right? And it comes in our little syringe here. It also comes with a little spatula thing, so you can actually put it on there and spread it if you'd like to. Now, I'm not going to do that today. I am going to do the dot and cross method. So we're going to do a little dot in the middle. We're going to come out here, and then we're going to come out here, like that. And we're going to go like that, and like that. And that'll do it. That'll do big. Except can you tell me what I messed up, guys? So, if I put that on there, then I can't get to the screws for the back plate. Right? So now I'm going to try not to mess up that thermal paste, and I want to start adding some pads to the back here. This is going to be fun. So now, the thing I'm going to try to do is match that rubber pad, because that pad is spacing it out from here. So if I make the thermal pad slightly larger than this rubber pad here, then I'll have contact. So I think it's, I don't know what size this is exactly. I think it's, yeah, that's going to be perfect. And let me see if I can compare it to one of these other ones. So it looks like I'm going with a 3.5 or a 4mm pad here. And that should be perfect. So I'm going to cut out a square here, I'm going to cut out a square there, and I'm going to cut out a square right here to cover all 8 of these back sides of these heat sinks. So, get all the trash away from all these awesome stickers. Trash off the GPU graphics. Okay. So I'm going to eyeball that. We're going to go about like that. Yeah, that looks good. Right there. Boom. Okay. And then this. Cut this section off right here. Get that guy off. And then we'll chop that down the middle. And then we'll go boom and boom. And then we'll chop one more. put that piece right there. So now we have full thermal heat transfer from the back side of the memory to that metal backplate that they were so gracious to give us, but not used for cooling. Done. There we go. Now we're going to put this backing plate back down. Take the rubber spacers off. Actually, no, the rubber spacers, as long as they're not. It's clearly going to work though. That's awesome. Now this one is going to look back a little bit too. See how I was covering that screw hole? So now there we go. I've exposed all the screw holes now and I've got all my thermal pads placed. Now I'm going to check this. Perfect. So I'll drop all the way down. There we go. Same thing, I'm holding it, I'm going to flip, and I'm going to get my screws. Carefully drop them into the holes. I'm going to tighten this backing plate back down. Done here, and you notice I haven't messed up my GPU paste. Now that I said something, I probably will, but it's pretty careful. Pretty careful, guys, despite that, whoever that was barging in and trying to tell me how to cool my GPUs. I love my stickers, but I just don't know if that's going to work, guys. You let me know down below. Okay, so now we have all that on there. I've got my thermal paste in an X shape. We have everything all set up, and we are going to put this cooler back on. First thing we need to do is plug in the fans. So let's flip this over this way. Get my fingers in there, line it up, and now we're just going to carefully drop this down without twisting it or making any other crazy motions. I'll lift it like this, flipper. And there we go. So now we are ready to drop the GPU bracket back in there. Alright, stand the card up, make it a little easier for me. And these things, they have a spring in there, and it is spring loaded, so you don't need to crank these screws down. You're going to feel it stop. It'll go and it'll go and it'll go, and then it'll stop. That's where you need to stop. That's as tight as it goes. It's already applied enough pressure. Right there. So, that's completely done now. You see the fans still work. It's going to be super cool now. So, thanks for tuning in today, guys. This has been the Anonymous Miner channel and how to replace thermal pads on an RX5700. Oh, by the way, go get yourself some Dogeload coffee, maybe some Anonymous Miner stickers, huh?